So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Craig Herrett, who's Managing Director at Alliot Technologies. So, firstly, Craig, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
No problem. Delighted to be here, Chris. So my name is Craig. I'm the Managing Director of All IoT Technologies, which we've had for about 7 years now. So I'm one of the founders. And what do we do? So at All IoT, we help organizations collect information from buildings, equipment, utilities, all automatically instead of relying on people to go and check things manually and travel. So that might be water meters or energy use, what temperature is, air quality, people counting, or even compliance monitoring. And we have a level of automation as well. So we provide the technology that helps people make better decisions, reduce costs, and prevent problems before they happen. Our solutions are trusted by organisations as large as the Ministry of Defence, but are affordable enough for a single shot monitoring its Legionella compliance. So people ask me this quite a lot. I've now got to the point of what do I do when someone asks me in the pub? So I run a company called All IoT, and we help businesses use technology to gather information automatically from buildings, etc., and just make better decisions to save them money or make them more efficient.
Brilliant. A subject close to my heart. My previous background was in power generation and technology. We did a lot of monitoring systems, and I was mentioned before we started that sometimes we had to do things remotely. So it's great. And I'll make an apology here right now. Obviously, I pronounced it Alliot, and so forgive me. I should have checked before. And it's all IoT, which makes perfectly sense now. Now I
Well,
read
in
that.
in fairness, there's more to this. So when we first started the business, we was looking for a name, and I like the ambiguity of those types of names. So we purposely started it with All IoT and Alliot. So we would purposely answer the phones with both. And the reason for that is because we always thought that people would remember us. People would go, "Well, what is it?" And it would become a story. And I think within business as within life, the stories are what makes it remember. So
Yes,
yeah, it was on
brilliant.
purpose. But no, I've since been told by my marketing manager we need a single brand, so we're now fully All IoT.
Brilliant. Well, that makes perfect sense. And just for anyone watching, so IoT, just clarify what that stands for.
It stands for the Internet of Things. Lots of people within different verticals think of it of a lot of different things. So effectively, all it is things that use the internet to talk to other things. So that could be your mobile phone and your SIM card, but equally that could be a computer talking to a computer. In lots of things that people that are sitting at home will talk about their fridge or their smart home talking to their phone or stuff like that. But it's such a kind of IoT stands for so much.
Yeah.
What we do at All IoT is we really try to nail that down and be very specific. So what we do is you could have a SIM, but you don't need to. But it's not about kind of big data and fast data. What we really try to do is something that's really small and really slow. Kind of as we get into it, there's benefits to being small and slow rather than big and fast, which is a lot of people always think I need 5G or I need satellite or I need this super fast stuff. But the reality is that also costs a lot of money and takes up a lot of bandwidth and
Yes.
uses a lot of energy. So if you start to go the other way and start what we call LP WAN, so low power wide area network,
Yep.
suddenly you can use a watch battery that will sit in a kind of in like a little sensor, pretty much the
Yes.
size of that, and it will suddenly last 8 to 10 years, and it will do all your monitoring from your leak detection and everything else. So big is not always best. It's probably what
Wow.
I'm saying.
Well, I would have loved to have had this conversation quite a few years ago in my previous business because that would have made a big difference to quite a few of the projects we did.
Yeah.
Um, Wonderful. So yeah, so anyone that wants to monitor something remote, yeah, with distance remotely, you can help.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm a small business owner, so I always look at things on what the return on investment is. So initially, when we started the business, we had no idea what we was going to do. We
Yep.
had an idea, thinking this looks cool, so let's go and let's see what we can make from it. We took huge risk, but you've got to risk sometimes. You've kind of got to back yourself. So we backed ourselves and we
Brilliant.
went out and bought about £80,000 worth of sensors to try and work out what we could do with them. But over the years, what we've worked out is that in regards to where does it add value, is really around compliance first, or
Yes.
certainly for me, it's stuff you have to do. So if you are running a kind of a building that needs to do Legionella or emergency lighting, you can
Yep.
automate that, which means you can suddenly save your employees time and therefore money. So we do compliance first because it has to be done. Then the next thing we really try to look at with our partners is what's the return on investment. Now, most of the time, it's pretty easy nowadays with electricity costs going through the roof and
Yep.
gas, etc. So now we do monitoring of electricity and gas and those types of utilities, even water, etc. And we've got examples. In general, you're going to save about 30% return on investment. So you're going to get your money back on what you spend within about 12 and a half months. And as I said, these stuff will last for 8 to 10 years.
Amazing.
So then pretty much everything after that, you're going to save 30% of your costs. We have got an example in a large stadium where we've actually saved 92% return on investment.
Wow.
And that was £256,000 that we've saved them. And obviously that starts off obviously in year one where they save a bit of money, but they've got to take their initial costs out.
Yes.
This will last for what this stuff is wired in. So it'll actually last longer than 8 to 10 years. So I've saved them £250,000, probably 10 to 15 years quite easily.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
I know one of the things I keep saying is the next business, I think we'll go out to market and we'll say, we will just take half of your savings. You don't need to pay us, and then see how that one goes. Because I think that'll be a huge tagline.
Funny enough, I can imagine that would be the case. I remember doing an efficiency system for a power station, basically making the power station a bit more efficient. And I remember sitting there, and it was like something like £500,000 because there was quite a lot involved, and it's quite some clever stuff. I'm not the clever guy; it was my colleagues that were clever guys. And I remember the procurement guy, who I don't think was an engineer at the time, or perhaps anyway, the guy saying, "Well, that's a lot of money." And I like to consider myself quite fast on my feet, and I said, "Well, that's fine. Let's just take 10% of the saving." And he got his big calculator out, and he did a few numbers, and he said, "No, 500,000 would be absolutely fine, thank you." It was like,
Yeah,
okay, it's compared to when people talk about expense, it's compared to what, isn't it? It's like compared to what the benefit,
absolutely.
what's the benefit? But no, that would be great, because it just one of the things we do a lot of work in with businesses in general is turning points of difference into guarantees. And because a guarantee really gives people confidence we can do what we say we're going to do. So being able to talk about a percentage of saving is really, I would imagine would be absolutely incredible. So maybe, Craig, we could start a little bit on looking backwards, and you could tell us a bit more about your particular background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, sure. So it's a kind of a bit of a zigzag story. So I started where most people start, in retail. I had a kind of a job in Tesco's, and I was filling up shelves and working on tills. I then got contacted from this is all relevant because it kind of brings me back to the service element.
Yeah.
I got contacted from my work experience, and they offered me a job as a barrister's clerk. And I thought, this sounds great because there's some money there, and kind of it's in London, and that would be cool. But Tesco said to me, no, we want you to be a manager. Like, we think you could do this. So inadvertently, I stayed at Tesco's because the money was better and it was local. And I worked through and had promotion on promotion on promotion, and kind of later on found myself running kind of express stores in London. So multiple, like just looking after the region for a period of time. And at that point, it was a real kind of come to Jesus moment where I thought, well, I'm doing this and I know I'm good at it, but it feels like work. And I've read lots of books, and it was like, well, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life, and kind of all of these things. So I was really, really keen to try and reset. So I thought, where's my next life stage? So I was liking going to the gym. So technology hadn't hit me yet, despite it was way, way in my background.
Yeah.
So I like going to the gym, and I was just about to buy buy a flat. So I thought, okay, I want like maybe either something in a gym or something more home related. So I end up with two. I've contacted a recruiter, spoke to the recruiter, and they put me forward for a couple of gym interviews, like managing director of gyms, and then also a managing of Homebase. Went for the interviews and kind of liked Homebase first, so kind of still in that service element.
Yeah.
Was going to have a kitchen and kind of do this, but the kind of the Tesco was the very operational side, efficiency side, really, really well run, massive black book that had every single operation written down. So
Yep.
so anybody could walk in, and if they didn't know something, they'd open up the black book and it would tell them exactly what to do. And I loved that.
Brilliant.
Then went to Homebase, and it was very much kind of, you had the sailor kitchens, you had very much the soft feel, like you put on a pillow because they want to touch and feel. So it's very much the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I luckily, won the, what was it? I think I won gold at the best supermarket manager in the UK and Ireland, not for Homebase, for everybody. So that was a great day and night out in Manchester. That was good. And there's still some dodgy pictures on the internet of that. Where I'd maybe had too much to drink and enjoyed myself a little bit too much. But yeah, so I did that. And then after Homebase, I still thought this feels like work. So I kind of just looked back and thought, what do I enjoy? The two things I enjoyed, I was a water skier, so I loved water skiing. Weather's not really conducive for that in the UK.
Yeah.
And the other thing I look back on, so I used to take stuff apart, much to my mum and dad's dismay, and then try and put it back together. So that'd be a telephone. I remember putting back our old dial telephone and leaving out a couple of springs, and so no longer clicked back, but DTMF still kind of, or the clicking still kind of worked. And my mum and dad said, well, you've always liked tech. Why don't you go and do that? So I looked locally and found something that I could take the skills that I'd learned from Homebase and Tesco's, but then combine it with something that I wouldn't feel is work. So I ended up working for a local technology firm in Chelmsford. And the learning scope was huge. I kind of had so much to get myself up to speed with, and I loved it. And I loved everything about it. And I loved when people would phone up and they would say, I've got this problem, and I would solve the problem. And it was brilliant. And I was a sales director there. I went on to kind of progress through and then run that company for a period of time. And then I had the opportunity to join ProView, which was the sister company to All IoT. So I worked there and had the opportunity to come in as an owner. So I bought into that business. And that went really, really well as well. So that kind of grew, and we grew that business. And again, it was about solving people's problems.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, with ProView's doing great guns and going really well, and we kind of had some cash in the bank, as it were. And we said, well, what do we do now? Like, what should we do? And we all sat around the table and said, well, let's just do another one. Let's go and find what we think is cool, what we're going to enjoy. Brilliant. I'd love to tell you that it was very much a business decision because we saw what was down the road, but we didn't. We expected it, but what we did is we thought, we think we would use this. We think this is good. We think there is a future here. Let's back ourselves again. So that's what we did. We spent £80,000 on sensors, still running ProView, but started All IoT. Moved the technical director straight into All IoT to start researching the technologies that we think we would want to do. And started from there. And that's kind of where All IoT was not just built and incorporated, but also the idea of All IoT. We're operationally efficient and automated, which makes you profitable, which is great. But really, we're there just to solve problems. We're not there to try and make money. The money is almost a happy accident. We're doing it for profit, but we're there to solve issues. When somebody has got leaks and they're a million miles away, we want them to know about it and also to be able to stop it. When somebody is trying to save money because kind of national minimum wage is going up and they're a small business and they have to do all these compliance measures and it's going to put people out of work, what can we do to automate that, which means they can still retain the employees, but they don't have to do that, so they can now concentrate on service. And that's what we really do. So the people that sit in ProView's, in All IoT's offices, we really don't want them processing orders. We want that to be automated. We want them to be answering the phone so that when people get a problem, they can say, don't worry, we can fix that. Brilliant. And that's kind of where it's come from. It's very much kind of a representation of our own behaviours and who
Yeah.
we are. So
I love that. I just love the fact that you've, really, as you've described for yourself and obviously for the businesses, you've just said, what do we really like? Let's follow that journey and just see where it goes. Um,
I
and
think,
yeah,
well, I think nobody likes to do a bad job, and B, nobody likes anything they're rubbish at.
yeah,
So I read a book ages ago, and it was all about unique abilities and stuff like this. And David Beckham was mentioned quite a lot. So
right,
you limit your weakness. What you do is, I'm weak at this,
yeah,
and I've done that. I know what I'm weak at, and I've got some great people that are significantly better than me in those areas. But then what you do is you really go and enhance your strength and the things you like. Now, generally, if you like something, there's generally an opportunity there, and also you're going to have loads and loads of energy to do it. So that's what was really key to do. And we practice this within the business as well. So, and examples are, we had a person that was looking after order processing, and they was looking after effectively customer complaints. Customer complaints came in from tracking of deliveries. So couriers are a difficult job,
yeah,
and also upset probably more people than I think anybody else would. So this particular person hated having to deal with the problems from couriers. Oh, where is it? It's late. It should have been here at 10, and it's 10:01 now, and blah blah blah. So I built. I said, okay, let's write down everything that you like about your job, and let's write down everything you dislike about your job. And we ended up with a part of a job role that we could give him more, but then we had this other job role that we didn't have a home for. It was all this stuff that I think would be awful, just
yeah,
customer service, couriers, chasing phones and stuff like this. And we luckily we was growing because obviously we'd done a good job elsewhere. And we managed to create a job out of all of the rubbish stuff, all of the horrible stuff, and we put it out on Indeed or Link or wherever it'd gone, thinking who's going to apply for this job. And we had someone apply for it. We had several people, and we put a person in place. And I spoke to them 6 months later at their final kind of not review, but after they've passed probation. What do you like about your job? And she said, I love it. I love it when customers phone up and they've got a problem and I can fix it. I love it when someone's let somebody down and I can phone them up and tell them that they've done this and they've got to do this. I love this. I love this. And it was all of the things that he
yeah,
hated and I would hate, she loved.
yeah,
And she's so much better at it than anybody else.
yes.
So that's all we've done with the business. Is just kind of looked at what aligns us, what do we like, what are we going to be good at. Let's go and make it 10 times better than anybody else.
Brilliant. It's interesting. It's a really great example of what holds a lot of people back from effective delegation is they seem to think the stuff they don't like, nobody, because we don't like it, we assume everybody won't like it. But the key message for me is for everything we dislike, somebody else will love. We've just got to find that person. And
Absolutely.
and when you get that, it becomes much easier to delegate because we're not giving rubbish to somebody else. We're giving what we perceive as being horrible things, but they can perceive it as a lovely thing. A colleague of mine put it really well quite recently, and she said, and it's a big thing we talk about is strength is play to our strengths, not try and strengthen our weaknesses. And she said, and I thought it was brilliant. She said, if we try and strengthen our weaknesses, at best we might be okay at it. Okay, at best. If we try and play to our strengths, we could become world class. And who do we want to be? What do we want to be? Do we want to be world class at the stuff we love, or do we want to just try and be okay at something we hate? And
That's the David Beckham analogy. So what he said is David Beckham was never a super fast runner. What he could
yes,
do is he could work on that and he could get
yep,
faster, but he'd be average. At best, he's
yep,
going to be average. Nobody wants to be average. Whereas his dead ball kicks was really, really good. So rather than stay an hour or 2 hours after training and kind of concentrate on getting faster and work on his short sprints and work on this, he said, oh, I'll try and do what I can with my running. But what I am actually going to do is make myself world class at something. And
brilliant,
suddenly he's the best in the world at taking free kicks. So, yeah,
brilliant.
absolutely.
Yeah, they're fabulous. And so looking back over the development of this business and potentially both businesses, what some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome so far, Craig?
they're all different. So as a small business, it was one challenge where it was kind of everybody doing, and we've created some of the problems ourselves. And if we was to do it again, we'd create the same problems. So when we first started the business, it was, what are we doing? What is our clearly defined strategy? And there were some people that was kind of like, what's your mission statement? I was like, oh, I don't know. We don't know what our mission statement is. We know we want to solve problems, but that's not big enough to be a mission statement. But the biggest problems probably were, trying to get the right people with us, make sure that we was all aligned and all pushing together.
Yeah,
And if something went wrong, there is no blame. It's kind of, yeah, that happened. What can we learn from it, and what can we fix? So we put that in quite early. Probably the biggest challenge that we've had wasn't at the start. The start was the hardest thing to start, I think, is first just taking the step.
yeah,
Back yourself and go. Like, yeah, that's it. It's nothing else. Back yourself and go. There's never a right time.
yeah.
You just got to trust yourself and go. If you believe in it, just go for it and put everything into it.
Brilliant.
The hardest bit came probably about 2-3 years after starting properly. So we incorporated in 2007. We really didn't get started until 2008. So kind of 2000, I don't know, 11, 10, something like that. That's when it started to be a bit difficult. And it was because we'd already started to grow the company, and we had these people that was always used to doing everything.
Yeah.
And then what they was doing is they wasn't doing the best they could do in the roles that they was doing. So back to being kind of average over here, but good here.
Yeah.
And then trying to put people not into boxes, but trying to say, look, don't do that. I want people to fail. It's okay, because when they fail, we know we've got a problem. Right. If we keep supporting and using a crutch or a stick, we won't see where the failures are. So I need everybody to tell us what's going wrong and help and fix and support, but don't just go in and take over and correct and then move on. Because as we get bigger and older, we just won't scale. The other thing that we worked out is that lots of people want to do lots of bespoke things. We talked just before, and it was like the big power, the big job that you guys did. It was very kind of niche and very specific.
Yes.
I don't want to be niche and specific. I want to create something that we can just replicate and replicate and replicate. So there was years ago, I brought a brand to the UK, or at least was the first master distributor of a brand called Ubiquity Wi-Fi access points. Now, the guy that was effectively the owner of that, I don't know if he still is, I assume he is, his whole intention was to deliver 80% of the features for 80% of the people. So he wasn't going to concentrate on that last 10 or that last 20.
Brilliant.
He just wanted to do as general as he possibly could, but he wanted to deliver everything for those 80% that wanted 80%.
Brilliant.
And it scaled fantastically well. And if you want to be specific, and you'll do well. But if you want to be good for the masses, be good for the masses. And that's what we want to do. So we want to create things that you can just copy and paste, copy and paste, and copy and paste. And then if somebody wants to build that last 5, that last 10% on top of it, then great. Then you do that. That's your value. That's their value. So the challenge of trying to get people that we don't solve everything, the challenge of saying that you don't solve everything. What we do is we play our part. And then the next part was how we went to market. So any start of a business, you want to sell to anybody. So in the last 2 years, we've scaled back selling to everybody and actually given away customers. So we're channel based. We won't work directly with any end user. And we class an end user as anybody that would consume or use their own data. So what we now do is we've had various different, I won't mention any names, but we take a customer that was an end user that used their own data. And now what we've said, well, your price is not going to change. Like all IoT will take the cost. But we will move you underneath a partner, a solutions integrator or a channel partner reseller. 2 reasons. A, I can probably scale better because I need to give less support. But B, I've now got somebody that I've given business to and they can grow. And whilst I'm taking less margin, as a business, I will scale much better. And I may have, years ago, I worked in ProView, and I had one reseller that had 300 resellers. So I had to talk to one guy.
Yes.
But out of that, I had 300 plus sales. And I just very early on thought, taking profit is important, but you've got to balance that with the scale of where we go.
Yeah,
So again, the other part was the change we made in the business was, okay, right, we're not going to go to everything. We're going to do this. We're going to do 80% for 80%, but we're going to be very specific about where we fit and where we don't fit. And we're
brilliant.
not going to waste our time with the other stuff. We'll help and say, you need to go and talk to him. But probably the biggest challenge that I haven't solved, but I feel like I've accepted, is that they will always keep coming. And it's just about the resilience. It's just about, okay, nobody's died. It's not a huge problem.
Yep,
We just got to look at, okay, what do we do next? So no doubt next year or this year we'll have a problem, and it's just
yep,
about not panicking, not just looking at it and saying, okay, what is the next step? What do
yep,
we do to move on from here and go from there? Because they'll keep coming regardless. Even if it was Amazon, we'd still have problems. So
yep. Yeah, no, it's bang on, and a lot of people I interview talk about resilience being one of their key features. And there's a great quote from, or a great saying from a guy called Tony Robbins about problems, and the one I love, he says, if this particular problem won't matter in 5 years' time, it doesn't matter now.
yeah,
It's a great way of looking at it, isn't it? Whenever this problem is, we won't even remember we had it in 5 years' time. Therefore, there's no point being as worried about it. It's so easy to build this belief that something's a terminal issue, when often it's just about what do I need to do to fix it. And as you said, they keep coming. And one thing I was told by our then CEO many years ago, and he said, Chris, the job of a business owner is to solve problems. And so if you don't like problems, probably business ownership isn't the right thing for you. And I think he's right. But I've come to believe personally, Craig, that problems are a function of growth. And so, if we're not getting any problems, we're not probably growing as fast as we could. So it's almost to embrace the fact that, great, okay, what's the next one? What's the next one? Great, great, great. We're still running at a speed that is causing these challenges, which is probably the right thing, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. And I think we spoke before briefly just about COVID and the way that kind of business in the UK changed during
Yes.
COVID. Now, I mentioned that I had a rather unpopular opinion that COVID was so not totally bad. There was some real
Yeah.
great elements in that, and I think the 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 way that businesses and people reacted to what COVID did was fabulous. I said earlier that ice cream vans that would usually just drive around and kind of ring their bell and hope people came out suddenly created a booking system. Kind of when I looked at the local pubs, initially when you couldn't do anything, they would just have takeaway in these big pots of their
Yeah.
beer and stuff, and therefore they was doing a takeaway for kind of draft pints and whatnot. And all of that was amazing. I just thought it was fabulous. And then kind of Zoom kicked off, and kind of all of the way we didn't falter, we adjusted and we
Yeah.
changed, and it was wonderful. And I do think that kind of without problems, we wouldn't be as good as we are today. But
Yeah.
not just the COVID stuff, but yeah, you should embrace problems because it will find a better way of working. So
Bang on. And I think that's the way we should and have to look at problems, as being, opportunities to grow. Um,
I look at a lot of stuff within business. I try to lots of people. So you've got different hats. So I've got my business hat and I've got my family hat, and I don't quite agree with that because I feel like I've learned a lot in my home life that I bring into my work life and work life into home life. So
yes.
and I do look back and kind of my children at one of them particularly had a bit of a difficult start to secondary school. Um, and she's gone on and she's doing really, really well now. And whether I should be whether I'm not sure she'll be thankful for me to talk about this, but knowing her, she probably won't ever watch this anyway, so I'll be okay. I'll get away with it. But I spoke to her probably about 3 months ago, and I said, kind of when you started, it was a disaster. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but I know it's been horrible for you and all of this. I said, but I think it's good for you. And she's, oh, me too, Dad, me too, because now I'm this person. And
Yep.
without all of those challenges and without all of these problems, I wouldn't be this person.
Yep.
If it was too easy, I wouldn't be as resilient. If it was too easy, I wouldn't try as hard. If it was
Yes.
too easy, yeah. And so I liken that to business. I am. I am who I am, and I try to
Yeah.
bring whatever lessons I learned from everywhere into work. And I want people that work for the business to do the same.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And any other key tips to growing a business successfully that you can share?
I think just never. One of the other things that I learned early on is when you think you're good is probably when you're at your weakest. So if you, I always look at things and go, how can we better? How can we be better? And it's
Yeah.
not about blame. It's not about. It's just about just continual challenge, and also it's not personal. So I've made mistakes. When I first went to ProView, I incorrectly priced the product and ended up losing loads of money, and that was disastrous for a sales director to go into ProView and not understand kind of that he
Yeah.
just lost a load of money on a product. But what it did is it kind of it helped me look at something and go, I can be better, I can be better. And that's all we ever do now. So we look at stuff. I have
Brilliant.
a every week I have a meeting with a couple of the management team, and we go through problems and resolutions.
Yeah.
And we go, right, what problems did we have? And they go, oh, we didn't have many this week. Well, no, we must have had something. What problems have we got? Okay, right, let's make it better. Let's make it better. And that's what
Brilliant.
we do. And then we look at other areas and go, right, what's gone really well? Right, how can we make it better?
Yeah.
Again, that's that kind of that 10 times attitude. I really like, I was talking to my kids about Disney recently. Everybody wants to go to Disney World. And I said, the amazing thing at Disney is like when we queue for stuff, we moan about queuing. We're British, we love queues, but we moan about it.
Yeah.
What they've done at Disney is made it part of the ride. So you queue
Yes.
up and you're almost excited, not excited to get in the queue, and you think, oh, it's a long queue, but then you get there and you've got people walking around, you've got kind of the screens telling you the story of what you're. It's now an extension of the ride. So
Yeah.
they've looked at something that's fundamentally a problem and made it kind of a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I love that type of stuff. And then I look at other things and go, kind of the best thing you could do, how could you make it better? So yeah, that's probably
Yeah.
the single biggest part.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and you know, I think picking up for that, it's that working out what makes us successful as much as what the challenges are. We work quite closely as an organisation with an athletics coach, a guy called Frank Dick, who has had a number of successful athletes going all the way back to a guy called Daley Thompson in the 80s through
I'm
to
not that old. I know who he is.
no, cool. I know. He's a brilliant bloke, and as recently as Jessica Ennis Hill, he did some work with her. Well, not her head coach, but just is a coach through and through. But one thing he said that always stuck with me, he said it's very sensible to do what he called black box thinking. When it goes wrong, why did it go wrong? How do we fix
Mm.
it? But he then said if we don't similarly analyze what went right, then it might just be luck. And it really hit me because most people absolutely there's very few people who will go, well, we analyze the problems, but it's also analyzing the successes to make sure we can repeat it and build on it, and that stuck with me.
Within
um
all IT, we actually talk quite a lot about happy accidents. That's one of the things
yeah.
we call them. So we go, what happened? Oh, we had a happy accident. What was it? Oh, we did this, and this come out. Brilliant. Does that mean we can do it again? Can we make it even better? How do we do that? But I think happy accidents are just like I was actually listening to quite a lot of podcasts, and one recently is just all about luck. And I was like, luck's not good or bad. Luck is just luck. You do get some stuff that doesn't
Yes.
work out good, but you also have some good stuff, and that is the happy accidents and the accidents. And it's just about it's all lumped in together. You just got to kind of work out how you replicate the ones you want to replicate.
Apparently, I was told, and I'm not going to say this is absolutely true, but champagne was created in because Napoleon's army was marching through France to go meet the enemy, and they were coming towards a monastery that with most of the monasteries with the winemakers or brewers, and they wanted to try and ferment and get this wine ready quick enough for when he arrived. So put they put more sugar into the bottle, and it fermented and got fizzy and apparently therefore it was a happy accident. And I was then told, which maybe just doubt it slightly, that the head monk of this monastery was called Dom Perignon. So I'm not totally sure. I think at some point my leg was being pulled, but I like the story, and I think again
Yeah,
happy accident. I can imagine somebody must have put more sugar in the bottle at some point, or put
yeah.
unripe wine into bottles that weren't ready for it. I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation, Craig. I'm just keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest influence on you?
I knew this question was going to come up, and it's. I think I haven't got a single answer, but I can go back to my days at Tesco, where there was a guy called John Gammo, and he was a real seasoned. He was ambient manager, so he looked after all of the non-fresh side of the food.
Okay.
And he taught me to have fun. He just said, like, well, you've got. He was always having fun. He had some hilarious stories where he accidentally evacuated Canary Wharf building and stuff like this. But it was always, he made his mistakes, but he always had fun. But then on the absolute converse of that, I also had another manager called Steve, and I forget Steve's last name, but at the time I didn't like him, really didn't like him, because he was so specific and so, like, he drove and drove and drove. And it was only kind of 3-4 years after I stopped working for him, I understood what he was trying to do. He saw potential, and he wanted to get it out. So again, I learned some stuff from John. I learned some stuff from Steve. But then I think we're sponges for as long as we want to be sponges. So I
Yeah.
kind of try and take loads of as much as I possibly can, and that would be from my kids. That would be from everywhere I see. If there was another guy that I feel like I'm a fanboy of quite a lot of different people,
Yeah.
both within the industry and without the industry. But there was another guy that was the CEO of a company called Nuvius, and I followed him because he had some really interesting takes on stuff, and I loved the way that he thought about stuff. Probably the most recent and the largest influence recently was our old chairman. So the chairman that would have been All IoT, ProView, and another business, Peter Bryant. So he was an amazing guy. And again, there was a lot of fun built in. So he drove for Rally Ford. He privatized oil and gas in Germany. He was a serial entrepreneur. He would sit in a chair and look like he's asleep, and then ask you the most direct question that was
Brilliant.
just, yeah. And it was never straight. It was always a side question that you'd never thought of. And I loved the way that his brain didn't just go there, because he assumed that you were smart enough to do the straightforward stuff. So
Yep.
it was all of the side stuff. So I regularly try and emulate that. And probably one other that I have, I do think about a lot, is both my father-in-law and my father. So both of them regularly come out with, it's inconvenient. So that's their line. If something goes wrong, it's inconvenient, and it
Okay.
is
Yep.
this. Nobody died. It's inconvenient.
Yep.
It's a chance. It's just, you move on to it. Your window smashes. It's inconvenient. It's not life or death. And I
Yes.
feel like that settles you quite a lot,
Yes.
so that you don't suddenly start stressing out and make bad decisions. You're
Yep.
grounded, and you can make good decisions for the good of everybody. So
Love that. Thank you. Now, well, funnily enough, I was going to come on to any favourite quotes or sayings. Obviously, there's a couple there already. And any other favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using or thinking about on a regular basis?
yeah, so some of them are not so good. We do a lot in my family of, you don't win silver, you lose gold, and second place is just the first loser. But that's kind of just to drive determination and the fact that we can always get better, but they're always joking. But probably the biggest one we use, both internally and at home, everywhere, is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. We use that a lot.
Love that. Sorry, that's just hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
Great, great,
I just
great.
feel like, especially with my children, but equally,
Yeah.
we could be the best, but if we don't work hard, we won't
Yes.
be. So we have to work hard. I mean, I wrote down a couple of things earlier, not because of this meeting, because of something else. And it was all about, oh yeah, my family taught me from a really, really early age the value of hard work and
Yeah.
persistence. So not resilience, persistence.
Yes.
Um, and that really made me think that even if you're the best, work hard and be the best by 10 miles. And
Yeah.
if you're rubbish, work hard and be above average. Don't ever be average. But yeah, and that never giving up. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I one of a proud moment, which it didn't have a good ending, was my daughter trying to do somersaults and backflips, and she was about 7 at the time. but she had this level of persistence that meant she was then tired and she was ratty and she was crying, but she just refused to give up.
Brilliant.
And I loved that. I just
Brilliant.
thought if we could just bottle that,
Yeah.
it would be amazing. So
I absolutely love that. And funnily enough, I was talking with a client on Friday about, yeah, as you say, first, second is his first loser.
yeah.
Literally that and the gold. And I've just sent him. There's what I thought was a brilliant video online about an Olympic athlete at mother's school racing day. And does she take it easy? No. It's like it's quite funny when you see the gap between an Olympic athlete and there were a couple of people there that did okay, but there was sort of 50, they're almost 50, only 50% there, and she's like finished.
So we recently come back from holiday, and my 12-year-old beat me at paddle. It's the first time he's beat me at anything, and I've torn a cartilage in my knee. So it wasn't smart, but I was like, so I sat down, and my wife said, "Are we going to go back to the pool?" I was like, "No, I'm waiting to get back on because I'm going to beat him," and I beat him 2-1. I couldn't walk for the rest of the holiday, but it was worth it. But the thing is, he knows how much it means to him to beat me.
Yeah.
And I know when he's beat me, he's truly beat me.
Yeah.
And it's a real, it's brilliant. We're good competitors. Neither of us like to lose, but none of us are a bad loser. And I just think there's so much value in that when he beats me, he'll know it's real.
Yes.
And yeah. And also I didn't want to lose. He's 12, but yeah.
I do. That's absolutely brilliant. And similarly, any favorite books or podcasts you can recommend?
I listen to a lot. I do quite a lot of driving, so I probably do about every other week. I go up to the office, which is in Huddersfield, and I live in Essex.
Right.
So I spend a week up there. So I listen to quite a lot. So the normal kind of Stephen Bartlett's and stuff like that. But the person I think I like the most is Mark Manson. So he's obviously wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Hope and some other books and stuff like that. But his podcast is good. So it's massive long chunks, but they've also broken them down. So he's the one that's recently talking about hope and stuff like that. But the reason I like him is because it's stuff that is relatively basic, and you can put. He's not doing it from a business point of view. He's doing it from a people point of view. So it's the stuff that I feel like you could give to your kids if you don't mind a little bit of foul language in there, so they've got to be a little bit older, but you could give it to them. And he talks about all of the mistakes he made in life, so that he was he was doing drugs in school and got expelled from school. And he talks about how he got caught and where it happened and why that changed him. And now, kind of over God knows how many years, he's now kind of a best-selling author, and he's authored a book with Will Smith, and he's got this massive podcast, and he's doing all this other stuff, and now he's teetotal, and like it's a real kind of you followed his life journey and where the decisions that he made that went wrong and the decisions that he made that went right. And I like it because it's real. And then the other book that I've just finished, which is excellent, is Becoming Bulletproof. So yeah, if you're looking for a good book to read, I've not come across the author before, but it's fabulous. But she's ex not police force, something like CIA or FBI or something like that. But it's Becoming Bulletproof, and that's a fabulous book. Really, really, you can take some good learnings from it. So,
thank you. That sounds really interesting. And I'm guessing it's there's a lot about resilience and as you say, overcoming challenge and that. Yeah, wonderful. And just sticking on learning for now, Craig, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
To calm down. I'm quite an excitable chap. I suffer with fear of missing out. At 2 a.m. I should have gone home 2 hours ago. I shouldn't stay up because something might not happen. But that kind of that's been throughout my entire life. And what I've worked out now is to just concentrate on the things that matter. So you can't really be focused if you're trying to be everywhere and doing everything, and you're going to be average doing everything. So within every element of life, be it all IoT, saying, right, we do LP-WAN, we do compliance first, return on investment, and then we do well-being, kind of air quality and stuff like that. We've got a clear kind of idea of who we are and what we do, and we'll help with the other stuff, but it's not what we focus on. I do the same. So I now kind of I run everything from my diary so I can have some real good focus time with my family and my children. I have some real good focus time on business, and then I try and have some real good focus time on individuals within the business. But I also try and take some time and go and have a coffee and just sit quietly, just trying to think about what's next. And that might be what's next for, are we going to live in the house that we live in? Are we going to renovate? Are we going to buy another one? Are we going to do something else? Or are we going to stick with LP WAN? Or are we going to bring in radio surveys? Or are we going to do this? These big are we questions that just come to you. So a lot of people, I don't meditate, but a lot of people do, and they feel like things come to them. For me, a black coffee, sit in the quiet with no devices, the ideas come. I have learned sillily that despite me being heavily into technology, I have massive pads and loads of books because I
Brilliant.
feel like once, for me, I understand how I work. I learn that
Yes.
I watch, but I need to write to get the stuff out and to understand it. So I've learned how I work, and now I kind of will sit there with a coffee and just sit quietly and
Brilliant.
not purposely trying to think, but just stuff happens and then you write it
Yeah.
down. So I've always got a pad or something near to me because it will be the next greatest idea or the next thing that I throw in the bin, but it could be 50-50.
Who
So,
kn- who knows? Our founder, I remember he's got a Brad's big list or big board, I think it's called. It's a big
yeah,
whiteboard in the office. And he says, look, it's important we capture all these ideas. And a lot of them come from him, but not always, the other team. And he said what the idea was that you put the idea up, so really important you get it out, and then he leaves it a week because he's very what we call high D, very get it done quickly and stuff. And he was finding that it was the danger is you chase rabbits down holes
yeah,
that you don't need to be. So the rule they have now is if he has an idea, everyone says, great, put it on the board, it goes on the board, and it's got to be there a week. And then we start to look at planning and what we're going to do with it. And he says it's great. He says within that week, half the time I go, who wrote that idea?
yeah,
Whose stupid idea was that? Get rid of that one. And it helps really just focus on the stuff that really is value, and hopefully get rid of some of the stuff that isn't. Which I thought was a great story. And Craig, we have a specific definition of a true business in Action Coach. And I'm keen to get your thoughts on it. So what we believe a true business is defined as a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. I'm
yeah.
just keen to know your thoughts on that and where perhaps you are on that journey at the moment.
Absolutely. I'm desperately trying to make myself redundant without being redundant. I like the idea that I'm a problem. I like the idea that I turn up in the office and I create issues because I want to change stuff or I want
Yep,
to do things. And so far that seems to be quite successful based on the feedback I have from the team. I am a problem.
brilliant.
But the intention one day is like I don't. I want to exit. I will want to exit this business. When that time comes, I don't know when it will be. I don't know how it will be. I've got my own ideas of when that might be. I'd love that to be a legacy. One of the things I didn't talk about in this is that I'm a big believer in trying to leave a legacy. I want to leave behind. Oh, this is going to be a bit dark, perhaps to end the podcast on, but at my funeral, I want people to turn up that my kids and my wife didn't know and say, "Oh, your dad did this for me," or "Your dad enabled this," or "Your dad did this," and that type of stuff. And I always look at that type of stuff because I want somebody to turn around and say, "Yeah, Craig, I know, created who I am today." The same as John Gamo and Steve and kind of all these people, Peter Bryant did to me, that
Yep.
I would have turned up and said, "You don't know me, but this is what they did." And I think there's no better value of a life that you've impacted people and you'll long surpass any life that you actually have. And that's the same with the business. I want that business to go from strength to strength. I want the people that are in it now to eventually one day own it and run it. And then I
Yep.
want them to hand it over again and hand it over again. And that business to be around for as long as possible. So, yeah, I 100% agree that an owner, director, managing director should be almost excess. And then I think you only know that you've got the right managing director if he doesn't just disappear and play golf or disappear on holidays all the time, that he still wants to be part of it. And the
Yes.
day that he doesn't want to be part of it is the day that he goes, right, okay, right, I now need to find somebody new.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think a couple of things there, and because I've helped a lot of people go through this process is one is working without doesn't need to mean exit. It just means working without, if that makes sense. In
Yeah,
other words, it's not dependent on us. It's
Yeah,
just that and therefore we can be guiding without doing it. The challenge I find, it'd be interesting because obviously we've talked a lot about hard work and be connected, is the challenge I find. It's a mindset change because we are brought up with the idea quite correctly. The harder we work, the more successful we'll be. It's foolish to ever believe that's anything other than absolutely true. The challenge with I find with people that I often work with is maintaining that as a principle. Once we've got a business that the challenge of the principle as a business owner is we become the bottleneck if we don't learn to delegate effectively, if that makes sense. Because
100%.
if the first thought is what do I do, then we're not in the right place because we should be now. Who do I need to work with? How do I need to make that happen without it being dependent on me?
I had
Um,
a, I actually had a meeting exactly that in this morning. So we was looking at the FX changes over the period of year. We try and hold our pricing exactly the same. I want to
right.
try and make it really, really easy for customers so that they don't need to get a quote from me because they know the price. And equally, I'm not going to change prices every month because the currency's changed or the shipping's changed or this. We say, right, this is your price. And if it goes up a little, do you know what? All IoT will probably do a little bit better. And if it goes down a little, then actually all IoT will miss out. But for
Yeah.
that, I'm not going to start changing customers' pricing and adding complexity to what
Yeah.
is already a difficult job in selling it in. So we hold that. So I was talking to the FD and the operations manager this morning, and the FD's worked everything out about us moving the FX rate to maintain the going out price for the customer. So the customer does not change; it stays the same. And actually,
Yeah.
all IoT give up a little. Um, and he said, "Do you want to check the numbers?" I said, "Have you checked them?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." As the admin assistant, the accounts assistant that checked them, yes. I said, "Then no, and I need to trust you. I
Brilliant.
can't be I cannot be the thing that stops this. It has to be bigger than me. It has to grow without me, and things need to happen. And I just want to be informed at this stage. And if you say to me, Craig, we're going to do this and we're going to do it on Thursday, if I've got a problem, I need to call you by Thursday. And if I don't call you by Thursday, I've either not got a problem or I'm not doing my job. And
Yeah.
that's it. But you're right. I think it should operate, any business should operate independently of the owner, founder, managing director. The challenge I have is that I am that hard work
Yeah.
person. And when I left, so when I exited ProView and concentrated on all IoT, I expected I'd have more free time.
Yeah.
And what I've done is I've filled that free time. And I think
Yeah.
that is the challenge, that I filled it with action stuff rather
Yes.
than thinking stuff. So I've done a year's worth of doing things.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying desperately now for the last kind of 6, 7 months to kind of pull back 75 or pull back 25% so that I create this 25% thinking stuff that I then can actually talk to people. Because I think that's really difficult, stepping back but still being valuable.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah,
it as I say, I've worked with a lot of CEOs, owners, etc. through that process because it is it's just a
yeah,
mindset change. It's literally 180 degrees from it's all about how hard I work to it's all about how well I think.
yeah.
It's so difficult. And I've seen people sabotage the process. I've seen them, sabotage that process of creating something that works without them. I've seen people exit a business and then immediately start three others. And it's big. But there was a lady we had in Leeds at an event a couple of years ago. A lady called, to get it right, Jennifer Byrne, who's ex CTO at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Um, a while back, but she's now helping startups grow and a whole bunch of stuff. And she said something, and I was surrounded by business owners and leaders, and it was fascinating to see the reaction, and I felt my own reaction to it very similar. She said, in the US now, when they recruit C-suite executives, they actively test them on their ability not to do things.
Really.
Exactly. And everyone's going, did she just, and it's like, and what I picked from that was our job is no longer the first thought should be who does what, not what do I
Mm.
do? Because then we're not operating at C-suite, we're operating at management level or even below that if it's about me. But it is such a difficult change, and it just does take time. But that's all part of the
But
fun of the fair, I guess.
I think I was on holiday recently. I just mentioned it with some friends as well, and one of the ladies that we was away with is quite is works for an American company, but quite high up, and they have to take 2 weeks annual leave all in one, and they're not allowed. They get blocked out of
Yeah,
everything. And at the time I thought it was for mental health and well being, and I've kind of changed my tune a little bit. I think there's probably a piece of that actually no, you need to switch off. But I think the other part is how well does it operate without you? And
yes.
are you a kind of if you was to hit by a bus, or is there anything else going wrong, or and all of that? And I think there's probably a real benefit in that, of just switching off and just seeing what falls over. So
There really is. I mean, one of the simple tests we have, and not sorry, not physical tests, but I mean, we do ultimately do that. Is it's could you leave the business for 6 months and it still
mm,
be there when you
mm,
get back? It's two weeks is certainly in America is about the most you're going to get, but it is that longer period. It's not can you have a holiday? It's can you really not be
yeah.
there for long enough that you've gone through a full management cycle or a full board cycle. But it's
I
the
think
right.
it's incredibly hard though, because you think you built this stuff and you're doing it. And I must admit, there's a lot of times that people do things better than me, but then there's also other things that I look at and I think, oh, I feel like I could do that better,
Yep.
but it's still not my right. That despite it's my business, it's not my right to go in there and do it better because this person needs to do that forever. So,
And and I think one of the ways to consider it is you can only do it better with the hours that you have. So there'll
yeah,
always be a limit to how well that gets done. Two people doing it 75% as well as us are going to do it, I think, 1.5 times more than us. So it is that thing. It's funny you said we just said actually because I was just working with a client on Friday and oh no, it's Monday. Anyway, he literally said the blindly flash the obvious was not only are he's employed some really bright people who are now starting to do things better than he did, but also one thing he had done, which is the whole business was perfectly systemized. It was just they're almost ignoring the systems.
yeah,
And they had a whole manual about what to do. I think you mentioned Tesco's at the start, having this complete black book, and they weren't completely off piece, but basically it's already there. He doesn't need to be there to answer a question. How do I do this? It's in the system. How do I do?
mm,
What do you think? It's in the system. It's all been. It spent the time to create this amazing black book to use your phrase of how to do things, and wasn't guiding people towards it. Was still feeling involved by answering questions. So it is very much a mindset thing, and that's why it's very difficult to do.
mm.
But certainly by ourselves. So Craig, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
At the moment, so we don't really have much competition. So I would say we're so in one of our vendors, we're the third largest in Europe, which is great considering we're a UK and Ireland company primarily. That's where 90% of our business, or 97% of
Wow,
our business is
brilliant.
done. So that's fabulous from the UK being kind of as big as the people that would operate across Germany, Spain, France, and all of that. They work across those entire continents. So really, really proud of that. I think we'll just get bigger. I think the technology that we're using now is not new technology. It's
Yeah,
kind of established technology. It's been around
yes,
for a long time, but it's not normal. It's not commonplace. So if I look now, we're working through partners with Leeds City Council. They're doing kind of people counting and environmental monitoring. We've been working with Blenheim Palace, again, through partners, doing kind of all various different things from looking after tapestries and noise and temperature and humidity again.
amazing.
And then we're looking in South Essex. So there's 6 county councils that all work together, and we're helping them do water metering and people counting and all various different things. So we're now starting to see this technology actually being used because it's been around for a long time, but it's just not really being used. So what I'm fully expecting is I mean, we grew massively last year, and we've continued to grow year on year on year, which is great. I'm
Brilliant,
expecting more of the same. I'm expecting
brilliant.
it to become more common, and at the point it really does explode, I'm expecting lots of people to come in with lots of money and either try and buy all IoT or try and create competitors to us. What I'm trying to do at the moment is get in front of that, and I'm inviting. We're actually doing All IoT Live on the 8th of September at White Rose in Leeds. So
Oh,
if you're not,
nice.
like, have a look, come down.
Love
Yeah,
to.
I encourage people that are either
Love to.
within telco, managed service providers, or anything to come down and have a look. All the vendors are going to be there, so you talk to the vendors, you'll talk to solution integrators, you can talk to IoT, but it's very much about trying to build the ecosystem and show what's possible. Because I just don't think people are really aware that through this, I was going to say but through this technology, you will save 30% plus percent
Yeah.
of your energy costs. You will automate your compliance, which will pay you back within 12 and a half months. You will make it better for your staff and for your customers because you'll be looking at environmental and well-being. I mean, this product is now being used within Barclays Bank. This product is being used within the Ministry of Defence. This product is being used with United Nations. This product is being, and these are all my customers that all IoT have sold through, either directly or through partners. So it's trusted. And what I want to do is get in front of it and get as many people into the ecosystem as possible to see that grow and see that flourish and see that, so that
Brilliant.
when the new people do come in, there's enough market effectively for us to not fight each other, because
Yeah.
there'll be loads. So then at some
Great.
point we'll fight, but that needs to be 10, 12 years down the line. But for the time being, there's just so much that can be done that's not that it. Yeah. So I just think my job at the moment is to grow the market, not to
Yeah.
grow all IoT. All IoT will grow. That will just happen. So my job is just to make sure I get it out there and grow the market.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And final question, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back
Back,
in time and do that?
back yourself. That's
Back
it.
yourself.
Back yourself and go all in. So yeah, especially I took a risk when I had a mortgage, when I had, do I have one kid or three kids? I definitely had one. I'm trying to
Get it
think
right. I
now.
think you need to get the
12. It was right on the edge. I think we was pregnant with twins. I say
Oh, I'm
we,
so
never we.
sorry.
That's
I was
fine.
going to say there was a joke there. You know, it's like between one and three, there's a bit of a gap. But I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
sorry. I
yeah.
understand now. Forgive me. Right.
So
Brilliant.
I took the risk at the point that we was going to have twins. Much that we moved house when my daughter was one. Then I moved jobs and then started this. And she said to me, my wife said to me, "Do you know that most people get divorced when you do one of these things and you're doing all of them?" I said, "Yes, I know." Bless her, she stuck with me. But yeah, back yourself. There's never a right time. But if I'd have done it earlier, it would have been easier. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, and nothing ever. And I think so. The advice would be back yourself all in, go and do it. And then the other bit would be just a bit of word of advice that would be stick at it. So your first 6 months, a year won't work, but just keep going. And then in year two, you'll see some green shoots. And then in
Brilliant.
year three, you'll net out. And then in year four, and so on and so forth. It's that resilience and persistence to just keep
Yes.
going. As long as you've got to obviously review it, make sure it's a good idea. But yeah, it will work.
Yeah. There's there's a great story which you may have that I think they call it 3 foot from gold. I don't know if you've heard the story, but
I have. Yeah.
the second or third largest strike of the Klondike was guy gave up with 3 feet left to dig, and it's one of those stories, isn't it? But you
Well,
did
we
mention,
reference.
sorry,
Sorry, I was just going to say we referenced the salesperson, so you get 8 no's to every one yes. So you've got to
yes.
go for 8 no's. So it's the same thing, isn't it? 3 feet, you just got to keep going. So
Well, I think the other one it sounds like they're very similar. Is um, most people take action on the sixth or seventh touch, whether it's sales or marketing. Most salespeople give up within the first two or three, and there's that gap. That gap is gold for so many people. Craig, it's been fascinating talking to you today, and thank you so much for spending some time with us. And for anyone that's watching, would like to get in touch with you or all IoT technologies, I'm getting it right this time. What would be the best way of doing that?
LinkedIn's easy. Equally, pop to the website alliot.co.uk. Obviously, I'm regularly on there as much as I probably shouldn't be, but I am answering chats and stuff like that. Yeah, as I say, LinkedIn's probably very, very easy as well. What we do generally do is we try and drive everybody into. We've got a contact at alliot.co.uk, but all of that can be found on the website. So we do try and run it into a funnel the reason we run it into a funnel is purely because it adds with efficiency and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And then it enables us to get on the phone really, really quick and just fix problems. So
brilliant. Brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by another 6 to 12 months and just see how that next stage of business development is growing. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
I've loved it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.